Welcome back to the Bernard Lee Poker Show. We are very fortunate that we have our guest back this week. We had him on last week talking about his career, talking about what he was doing during COVID, how he plays against different types of players. But I know everyone was waiting for this week's interview because we're going to talk about the win. The 2021 World Series main event, 6,650 players, 8 million up top, and the most coveted bracelet in poker. We are talking with the champ himself, Koray Aldemir. Welcome back to the show, my friend. Thanks for coming back on.
Thanks, Bernard. Thanks for talking to me. Thanks for having me.
We enjoyed last week. We enjoyed talking about all of the crazy events that you have had. But let's talk a little bit about leading up to this 2021 World Series. First, let's talk a little bit about your history with the WSOP, right? So you've had 32 cashes before the main event. So you had multiple cashes this year into, I think, upwards of over 10 cashes. Yeah. You had, as we mentioned, 2016, you had a great run. You had a runner-up in the Summer Solstice. You had a third in the high one drop, the $111,000 buy-in. Then also in 2018 in the World Series Europe main event, the one that Jack Salser won, who was a guest of our show after he won, you finished in 7th place. But beside that, you haven't made any other final tables at the World Series. Now, we did talk that you're dabbling in some of the mixed games and you actually cashed in a couple this year, but you're primarily a no-limit hold'em player. Yeah. We talked with Chris Moorman a few years ago before he won his first, right after he won his first bracelet, and he primarily a no-limit hold'em player. And he had said, you know, at times, I don't know. I just thought I might not win one because it's so hard to win when the fields are thousands, no matter what, right? I mean, really only the high roller $100,000 buy-ins are there in the hundreds. Usually they're in the multiple thousands. And right. I don't care how good of a player you are. It's very hard to win that kind of event. Did you kind of have that mentality of, if I win a bracelet, I win a bracelet, but I don't know if I ever will? Or were you saying it's going to happen? It's just I got to play and play and play, and eventually I'm going to win one.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I wasn't sure if I was ever going to win one. Probably the best shot would have been to play more mixed games and get one there.
Right, 100%.
The fields are just smaller, so
right.
Totally, yeah. I mean, but I mean, I had these close calls in 2016. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to stop poker too soon, probably. So I thought maybe in the future, but it's not something you can really plan, right? I mean, I know some people like to make these bracelet bets, but usually the odds are against you. Everybody knows that. So yeah, I mean, I always thought, okay, maybe I would have bracelet and that would be kind of cool. But if not, it's not the end of the world too, because it's just very tough, especially in the no-limit tournaments.
Right. How important was it though? Like in your career, do you feel like you really like, I really got to win a bracelet, or was it, if I win one, I win one?
Yeah, tough question to answer. In a way, I did want a bracelet. Yes, I think. Yeah. I mean, I know some people, some friends of mine say they don't really care about it at all. But to me, it does mean something. I know that a lot of people, especially that aren't into poker that much, they've heard about bracelets, right? Because it's the right. Trophy of the World Series, so they ask about bracelets. So yeah, it's just something you can tell probably in a lot of years to your kids or whatever. I've won a bracelet once, like that's the right. Trophy of poker. So I think it's a cool thing. Yeah, so I'm really happy that I have one now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, for people who are outside of poker, that's all they know, right? I mean, you know, the first subset of people, all they know is the main event. So by the way, good that you won that one. Yeah, but beyond that, if they know a little bit more about poker, they'll say, oh, did you play in the World Series? Do you have a bracelet? I mean, that's like literally the question that you get asked. By the way, it kills me that I keep saying no still. But anyway, that's beside the point, right? So you know, it's obviously an important one. so let's talk about leading into the 2021 World Series. Obviously, everyone knows we didn't have a 2020 right live. We did have that kind of hybrid one that Damian Salas won over Joe Hebert, but we didn't have a live one in 2020. We've done a lot of the online ones, etc. You didn't play much at all leading up to the World Series live, right?
Yeah, I mean that's just mostly due to the pandemic.
Of course, right.
I just didn't travel basically for 1.5 years before that, and yeah, obviously didn't play any live events during that time. I mean, I played a lot of online tournaments. I mentioned that last time, but I actually didn't really play the WSOP events last year, I think, or maybe just a few. And even in the years before, actually after 2016, 2017, I didn't play all the WSOP events when the series were held because I played a lot of the high roller events that were at the same time. So I didn't really play any 1500 no limit events. Right. But this year I focused on the World Series like totally. So I played almost every day. I want to say I played some mixed games, played the Hold'em tournaments. So yeah, this year I was playing a lot. So,
you know, there were the World Series itself, right? It was, in my opinion, maybe I'll ask you first before we go there. How did you feel the World Series was this year? Because obviously a little bit different, right? There was a concern of the vaccine, except the COVID. There was actually you need to be vaccinated, et cetera, et cetera. How did you feel the event was itself overall?
I mean, I was looking forward to it a lot because I hadn't played live poker in so long. I hadn't played the World Series in so long. So I was counting the days kind of. I think all in all, it was a good series. I mean, for me, it was unique in a lot of different ways. I mean, it was the first time I shared an Airbnb, an apartment with some friends. The previous years, I've always stayed in hotels. Then first time I played some mixed game events, so that was different. And then the end result, winning the main was different too, obviously. Yeah. So yeah, and then the pandemic stuff like wearing masks and so on. So it was all a bit different. I think at the beginning there were some issues, especially at the beginning with the staff being like understaffed. I mean, there were some dealers missing, so there were long lines buying in sometimes at the beginning. Yeah, I hope that's going to be better next time. But all in all, I mean, I'm glad they did the series. I mean, it could have been possible that it wouldn't be held at all. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it seemed like the numbers were pretty much there. They were down a little bit, primarily because people from Europe couldn't come in. And the side events, those were down. Like, you know, the daily deep stacks, the sit and go area used to be like packed. Like, I mean, we're talking like 50 tables or maybe even more. And sometimes there were just 2 or 3 tables. The cash games were down. There were obviously less spectators, if any at all. But to me, playing in the events, you really didn't feel much different. Yeah, obviously people are wearing masks and all that. But yeah, the numbers are down, but you don't feel it that much because, you know, if you're playing an event that is 1,800 instead of 2,100, how in the world are you going to feel that? Like, you just don't feel it.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yeah, but primarily each event was down maybe 20 to 30% because of Europe. Now I'm going to ask the obvious question. You're from Europe. How did you get in? Like, did you come way early? Did you, quarantine for, how did you get? Because I talked to a bunch of my friends who were from Europe, and they said there were many ways that they did. Some came early, some went to Mexico first, some went to Canada first, et cetera, et cetera. How did you approach it, and how did you get in and to do it? Because obviously you were committed because you stayed the entire time.
Yeah, so as I said, I was excited about the series, so I really wanted to come. I know a lot of my friends in Europe didn't come, but I mean, there was a way. Exactly, you couldn't travel directly from most European countries to the US, but you could go to exactly either Mexico or Canada. stay there for 2 weeks, and then you could fly to the US, which doesn't really make sense because COVID numbers were higher in Mexico than they are in Europe. But that was the
okay.
So yeah, I personally couldn't decide between Mexico and Canada, so I did both actually. I was in Mexico for like 10 days, but then. Because I wanted to go to the beach. Also, I'm learning Spanish at the moment, so I wanted to practice my Spanish. Played a little bit of online poker there. But then some friends of mine were in Canada, so I joined them in Canada the last couple of days before the World Series, and then came directly from Vancouver.
Excellent. So, did the vaccine make a difference for you? Like, were you coming no matter what, or were you, when you heard about the vaccine, you were like, now I'm definitely coming? You know, did it make a difference at all?
Yeah, I guess it did make a difference. I mean, I was looking forward to the vaccines in Germany and Austria. So I got the vaccine anyways in summer. I don't even remember when, like July, August or something. Right. And then the WSOP announced that people have to be vaccinated. So that wasn't an issue for me, obviously. Did
it help you make your decision? So in other words, my question is that, so for me, I wasn't coming. I'll be honest with you. I originally was going to come. And then when there was a boost in cases, I canceled my trip. But then when they did say everyone has to be vaccinated, etc., I reconsidered and thought, okay, I'll take a trip. I went out for a week. Did that make a difference at all for you? Or if they didn't have everyone needing to be vaccinated, you were vaccinated and you were still going to go anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really thought about it that way because, I mean, no plans could be made the whole year, kind of. I mean, you couldn't make plans more than 2 months in advance. So I knew if numbers go up like a lot, it's probably just not going to happen, and then I'm not going. But the way it ended up, it was announced like quite some weeks before. I don't know when exactly that you have to be vaccinated. Right. So I didn't even think about the fact I didn't go through all the scenarios basically. I don't know if numbers had been low, but and people didn't have to be vaccinated, I would have come also. I would imagine. But I mean, if numbers would have been super high, then I wouldn't have come.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about the World Series. Going into the World Series, obviously you hadn't played much. You did relatively well. You were cashing in a number of events, but how many events did you play this summer?
Oh, I didn't count actually. So yeah, but I know that I have quite a few cashes. I think 12 or so, maybe 13. But they were all min cashes prior to the main event. So I actually didn't do well. Like, and also I cashed in all the smallest events I played. So I did really well in the $800 events and so on. I had a big stack in a lot of these on day one. But the higher events that I played, I didn't play as many as in the last few years. I did not play the 50K because I actually was in the hospital that day. That was another thing that happened for me this summer. I almost forgot about that. Playing soccer, like my knee. How do you say that in English? I don't know. I tore my knee. Maybe
you tore a ligament.
Yeah, exactly. I think something like that. So I in the hospital that someone was on crutches for a few days leading up, but it kind of healed pretty quickly. So but anyways, I missed the 50K and the super high stuff I didn't want to play this year. But yeah, the ones I didn't cash.
So you were basically leading into the main, you were down money. It wasn't like you were.
I was down money. It wasn't a great series for me. But I knew the main, maybe.
maybe something can make up from there. But did you feel like you were playing well, even though like you weren't up money, but you had made several cashes? Do you feel like you were playing well?
Yeah, I think so. I think I did. I think I did. I mean, it can happen in poker, right? It's only a few tournaments. It can happen that you just run bad and then you lose the important flips. So it can go both ways. It's what people often forget, right? I mean, people on the heat like that win a lot of tournaments. Usually they're pretty good, but they every time run good as well. And if you lose a lot of tournaments, it doesn't mean that you're the worst player in the world. If you win some tournaments, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best player in the world. Right. So I think I played all right. I just didn't run too well in the big spots.
So which
changed to
which
the main.
day did you start out in the main event? One what?
I think I played 1C, the
1C.
Saturday.
Okay.
Yes.
And how did that go? Because I heard in an interview you almost got knocked out.
Yeah, it didn't go well. It didn't go well. I had a bad day one for sure. But the funny thing is, so spoiler, I finished the day with like 30,000, I think 35,000.
Yeah.
But I was kind of happy after the day, which doesn't usually happen. Like I remember talking about my roommates. They asked me how it went. I said 35K, and they were like, "Oh no!" But I said, I think I played well. I made like a ridiculous fold, which ended up being right. So I'm happy to still be alive. I felt like I was kind of free rolling.
Right.
So yeah, I think I played pretty good on day one, but everything was going against me that day.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You basically had like the lower end of a straight, and the person pushed you all in, and you could have called, right?
Yeah. So what happened was the hijack opened, and I called in the big blind with, let me get this right, I had 6-4, and the flop was Jack 7-5, no flush draw. I called a small bet, and on the turn I hit my straight when the 8 came. So yeah, Jack's 7-5-8. So I had 6-4, but 10-9 beat me, and 9-6 beat me, I believe.
Right. Yeah.
But the person couldn't have 9-6 because she was opening from the hijack, and she wouldn't open 9-6 in that position. But 10-9 suited was possible. Probably 10-9 offsuit also not, but 10-9 suited. Anyways, she bet again on the turn, kind of smallish. I raised, and she raised pretty big, and she was playing pretty well actually that day. She had bluffed before too, but she was playing good poker, I think. This is the funny thing. So I kind of felt like she wouldn't overplay the hand. She wouldn't like do this with 2 pair or something, or with an overpair that she falls enough with. She wouldn't do that. She kind of would know that I have a good hand, and yeah. So at the time, I just, I don't know. It looked super strong to me. My raise has to look kind of strong to her, and then she raised very big. So yeah, I thought maybe she has top set or something, but even against that, I don't have her drawing that. And when she has the 10-9, I'm just drawing that. So I thought for quite a while. I mean, I don't know if my fold is correct, right? But I ended up folding, and yeah, later she told me nicely that she had 10-9. Maybe she was lying to me. Maybe
sure.
I don't know, but yeah, like I'm pretty sure she was on a super nice person, good player, and yeah, I made a good fold in that instant.
The butterfly effect happened, so
exactly,
it was good.
Exactly.
It'd be really interesting. It'd be really neat if next year, I mean, she obviously remembers, right? Like she'll remember that in her head, like as she goes through this whole thing. She's like, "Oh my God, I had him folding." It'd be very interesting if next year she comes and says, "Hey, do you remember me?" That'd be kind of neat for you to see her again. So obviously you survived day one, make it to day two, but day three is kind of where your run starts happening, right? Like you start getting some big chips. You end up day three finishing. There's only 1,000 players, but you finish in the top 90, and you have 850,000 chips, which some people are like, "Oh, it doesn't sound like a lot," but with big blinds, 4,000, 8,000, you have about 110 big blinds. I mean, you're in great shape. Did you just abuse the bubble?
Yeah, I mean, again, second day didn't go super great either. I finished with, I think, around starting stack, a little over starting stack, and then day three didn't start off super hard. So I remember texting a friend second level of day three and told her, okay, I have less than starting stack. It's day three, or like she was asking me how the main event goes. And I said, oh, it's day three. I have less than starting stack. I'm probably going to be out soon. Yeah. And then it was kind of 10 minutes later, I doubled up for the first time, and then I had 120, and then against the same person, I doubled up again, and I had 250. And I was like, okay, this is great. I can go from here. And then from that point on, basically, I didn't lose a super big hand in the tournament anymore. It's pretty crazy. So I could chip up a bit. I made some hands that day, of course. And then before the bubble, I was the chip leader at my table pretty much. So yeah, I could raise a lot of hands. The table was actually pretty tough, but those people also knew that they had to fold to make the money, like right when the bubble started. Actually, Jason Kuhn got moved like 2 to my left.
Oh yeah, wow!
Like an hour before the bubble, and he was big stack too. So I was very like I like Jason a lot, but I didn't like to see him at that time. So
of course,
he had a little more chips than I did. So then I had to calm down. I couldn't race that much anymore. But yeah, all in all, pretty crazy day. And day 3 was the day that turned my tournament around for sure.
You make it into the money just shortly thereafter, where they technically should have stopped at level 15, but many years this happens. I remember a few years ago, last time I cashed, that just there's only like, I think there were 9 left. And Jack was like, we're not stopping here. We're going. And then similar to happen this year, one of my friends cashed and he was giving me the reports. So you make it into day 4 with 1,000 players. And now it just starts happening. I mean, every single day. So just at the end of day 4, you were 72nd out of 292. Not the best, but still you had a solid day, 1.9 million, 80 big blinds. Day 5, now you're chip leader, 14 million. Day 6, you're 5th in chips. You still have a tremendous stack. Day 7, going into the main event final table, I mean, 140 million chips. George Holmes has 106. You have 175 big blinds. Was this just a ride that you're like, this is unbelievable? Like, this just doesn't stop. Every time I'm getting hand after hand after hand. Was it just unbelievable during this 2 or 3 days, or the best 2 or 3 days for you to have?
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, I've been chip leader in bigger tournaments before, but usually it doesn't like stay like that all the time. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. And I always thought, okay, I mean, it might happen soon that I lose a big one, and I have to stay focused though. Have to play well. This tournament didn't really happen. Also now, day 5, day 6. All of us are getting exhausted because you don't sleep that well when you're playing poker like 10, 12, 14 hours every day.
Right. It's hard to wind down. That's at least for me. Like, you're playing, you're so focused for 12 hours and then you go back to your room. It's not like you just collapse. Your brain is going nonstop. And, you know, you maybe 2 hours later, you kind of get down, but then even 4 or 5 hours afterward, you pop up and you're like, what you're thinking about? It's just hard to sleep, right?
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. Exactly that. High adrenaline during the day. And then it's tough to just fall asleep like 20 minutes after making a big decision. You don't eat that well either, usually. So yeah,
you almost forget to eat. Like, you just don't even think about it. So like, you're not thinking that way to do that. I remember you lose a ton of weight during deep runs in any major.
It was super weird. And then like day 6 or so, day 6, day 7, then the TV crews are usually around for the big hands. That adds some pressure also, because I mean, I played some high rollers before, but I'm still not playing in front of cameras like all day, and the other people probably like some of them have never played in front of TV cameras. So yeah, lots of pressure. So the last 2 or 3 days especially, it was super weird. Like you were in a weird mental state, sure.
And you didn't really have like a lot of hands where it was like big stack versus big stack. You just kind of picked away all 3 or 4 days. You won decent sized pots here and there, but you just kind of picked away and just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've said this before, but cards were definitely like on my side that tournament. So I always had this big stack, so I never really had to risk too much of my stack at a hand. Like after day 4, I think, from day 5 onwards. And then when a big hand happened, I usually had the better of it. I mean, this is I'm getting confused with the days, like day 7 or day 8 when I had this big hand. against Arkady when I had the full house.
Right. That was a huge one. Right.
I mean, he was second in chips at the time, I think. Right. And then at the final table later, again, I won the big hand against the second in chips. So like these hands obviously helped so much.
Right.
And then, yeah, it's not that tough then
right.
Like if you make these hands all the time. Yeah.
Right. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk with Koray about the final table, going into the final table, some of the big hands, the hand that almost got him heads up right away. And it was an unlucky card for him, but obviously incredible card for Jack Oliver. When we return here on the Bernard Lee Poker Show.